standing in the location of Smyrna, the persecuted church, an ancient port city rebuilt by Alexander the Great around 300 BC. It is situated north of Ephesus in the modern city of Izmir. Today, Izmir is the third largest city in Turkey and is still thriving with a population of several million people, including one of the largest concentrations of Christians in Turkey today. This church represents the persecuted age, or the second age of the church, from 100 to 312 AD. 2,000 years ago, at the time Revelation was written and sent to the churches, Smyrna had a population of about 100,000 people in the city. And it was strategically important for the Roman Empire, making the city well known for trade, travel, learning and culture, often being referred to as the glory of Asia on the slopes of Mount Pegasus. The main street in Smyrna was called the Golden Street. It was lined with temples and shrines to many false gods, and it led to the mountain where the temple of Zeus was located. Importantly, Smyrna was the first city to introduce worship of living Roman emperors or Caesars. The Emperor Domitian, who exiled John to Patmos, was the first to make worship of himself mandatory. This is extremely significant to the church in Smyrna, as it contributed greatly to the persecution of the church. As a test of loyalty, once a year the inhabitants of Smyrna would come before the statue of Caesar, burn incense and declare he was a god. Once they made the offering, they would have been issued with a certificate for the following year, allowing them to buy and sell and live their lives as citizens. It also included them being able to worship their own god or deity. The Christian church was subsequently persecuted and excluded for failing to do this. Out of the 7 churches of Revelation, only 2 escaped a rebuke from Jesus when he says, "I know your works," Philadelphia and Smyrna. In Revelation chapter 2, Jesus declares himself to the church at Smyrna as the first and the last, who was dead and came to life. He says, "I know your works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews, but they are not. They are a synagogue of Satan." The church of Smyrna had no possessions or wealth in the natural, but Jesus says to them that they are rich in spirit and in heavenly wealth. He saw the persecution of his church and those who said that they were Jews colluding with the Romans to have Christians persecuted. The word Smyrna is also significant. It comes from the root word myrrh. Myrrh being a sap that comes from a tree and when dried becomes a hard substance used to make oil and incense for a sweet smelling aroma. Myrrh had great physical and spiritual significance. It was present in Jesus' life on 3 separate occasions. He was given myrrh by the wise men when he was born. Jesus was offered myrrh mixed with wine at his death while he hung on a cross. And myrrh was used to anoint his body to cover the smell of death as he lay in the tomb. Myrrh was present at Jesus' birth, his death, and his resurrection. Ironically, although Smyrna was a beautiful city, it was plagued with a poor drainage system and frequently smelt foul. In the middle of the stench of this city, the only pleasing aroma came from the persecuted church. For myrrh to be useful, the hard substance had to be crushed in order to become aromatic. Just like myrrh, God allowed his church to be crushed and persecuted, so that through their faithfulness, even to death, they would become a pleasant aroma to God and be awarded the crown of life. Worshippers of pagan gods wore crowns and good citizens were awarded them. But Jesus says, "I'll give you a different crown." He finishes by saying, "Be faithful unto death and I will give you a crown of life." 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verses 15 to 16 says, "For we are to God the fragrance of Christ among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To the one we are the aroma of death leading to death, and to the other the aroma of life leading to life." Ephesians 5:2 says, "Therefore be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma." Today, a wealthy church with a prosperity message does not make it rich. The rich church or the rich Christian is not measured in a worldly means, but in the spiritual according to Christ. Remain faithful, even to death. Hold fast to the truth, and the reward will be a crown of life.